Hey everybody, this is Izzy here. Welcome to my cinema library. I am your host, Izzy. Today's review is based off of one of my favorite animes of all time, and it's an anime feature. The very first time I was actually exposed to this anime was living in Germany, and a classmate of mine who happened to be deployed from Japan with his dad had a huge book of collection of the artwork and the trading cards, and he would go on and on and on about this anime and how popular it was in Japan. And the very first time I actually watched the show was when we moved to California, and from then on, I was hooked. What made me such a huge fan of the show in general was just the artwork, the anime style, and the fighting sequences and the characters. Today, I am reviewing Dragon Ball Z, the legendary Super Saiyan Broly, however you want to pronounce it. My introduction to Broly, or Broly, however you want to pronounce it, obviously. If I pronounced it wrong, please feel free to correct me. When I first saw the picture of the legendary Super Saiyan Broly, I thought he was literally the coolest looking character that I've ever watched, ever seen in my life. It was just, as I mentioned before, one of the fascinating elements about the Japanese anime culture is the artwork and how much more stylistic and detailed it looks compared. And again, not knocking the American artwork, but it's just, when it comes to Japanese animation, the artwork just has a level of detail that I feel is very inspirational, creative, and has just a unique flavor to it that you just can't really put your finger on. And Broly just looked so intimidating and cool, and just hearing the name the legendary Super Saiyan and how he looked was just mesmerizing to me. The plot of this anime feature is basically Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta. They have all come into contact with this legendary Super Saiyan, and of course, prior to that, it was exactly that. It was a myth. It was a legendary Super Saiyan. There was really no physical, tangible proof that this being existed. And the interesting thing about the character of Broly is his motivation for having this unbridled hatred for Goku, and it's amusing, but it's so simple, but yet it makes sense to a degree how when they were both babies as, the alien race of Saiyans, because of Goku's consistent crying and screaming, that is what developed the burning hatred that he has for Goku. And because Goku's crying kept him up all throughout the duration of their existence, it seared in his memory, and from then on he has carried that grudge. And you would think, how in the world do you make a concept like this work? A villain who hates an antagonist who hates the protagonist because of their consistent crying as children. But hey, it works. And from then on, because when he shows up and that memory comes to life once again, that's when he goes into this burning rage and decides to destroy anything and everything in his path. And because he is so powerful, he literally has the ability to wipe out Earth, wipe off a planet. I mean, that's just how destructive he is. And my opinion of this anime film is I do enjoy it. I love it. And I love how the characters have to band together to try to... Because I don't really think you can view Broly as evil incarnate. He is driven by rage, similar to the Hulk, if you will, even though the Hulk isn't evil. When I think of Broly, I don't think of him as being evil compared to Cooler, Frieza, or even Cell, or even Majin Buu prior to in his specific saga. Broly just has this one motivation, this one goal, and that's it. And that is to take out Goku. And I believe if he was to take out Goku, he would cease to exist. I mean, he would most likely go back to whatever it is he was doing and be at peace. That's what separates him from a lot of the other villains, in my opinion. But I love this feature. It is very fun. It's very brutal. The music is what I really enjoy about it the most, actually, because when you hear Pantera's Tens, which is one of my favorite Pantera songs of all time, when you hear that song during Broly's transformation, it completely sets the mood. And Broly, just when he unleashes that power, it's one of the most memorable, iconic moments in Dragon Ball Z history, for me personally. And that's saying a lot when Goku transforms as a Super Saiyan for the first time, Vegeta transform into Super Saiyan first time, or you have Gohan transform into Super Saiyan 2 for the first time. It was just those moments is what cements Dragon Ball Z as being one of the greatest animes of all time. Now, having said that, the difference between this film and the other episodes is that this film, in specifically, doesn't necessarily have a lot of the emotionality that the series maintains. Whereas, even though the stakes are high, there's no need to develop these specific characters at the time, because it's all about attempting to bring down this raging Hulk, this raging beast of a being. And the fight sequences is what really, I think, separated from the other ones, how it's just that much more, it's a lot more brutal, more methodical. And Broly has some of the coolest quotes of all time in this film as well. And my favorite quote is when Vegeta finally manages to attempt to overcome his fear and starts to attack him. And if please feel free to correct me if I got this quote wrong, but he says, "I am the prince of," this is a spoiler here too, "I'm the prince of all Saiyans, I am the prince of all Saiyans, Broly, even you, Broly." And he says, and Broly responds, "Then why don't you do your best and make me kneel before you?" And I was like, oh my god, that is such a cool quote. And again, love the character of Broly. I'm not a big fan of the sequels that came after it, but this one is truly one of my favorites. I love it. The only thing I don't like about this, and I guess it's a minor gripe, or maybe you could construe it to maybe a major gripe. I'm not exactly sure, but the only thing I don't like about the ending sequence of this film is I just don't like how the battle ended. It was very anticlimactic. For everything that has that transpired before the climax is perfect, absolutely perfect. And then when you actually get to the ending, it just feels so rushed and anticlimactic, and I didn't necessarily care for it. I just remember watching it with my dad, and he felt the same way as well. He just it was just so disappointing. But overall, I still enjoyed it. The ending doesn't necessarily detract, if you will, from me enjoying it fully. So I'm still going to give it a 5 out of 5 because, of course, that's how I feel about it. I just would have changed the ending. The ending would have went completely different for me personally. But Dragon Ball Z, Broly, the Legendary Super Saiyan, one of my favorite anime films of all time. It's a short one too. It's not necessarily long. I do believe that you can watch it with your children, even though there is quite a bit of violence and blood and interesting flashbacks that actually give you some sort of backstory of the Saiyans and Broly and Goku and Vegeta. But other than that, it still is a great fun adventure that I think that, from my perspective, I do believe children have seen and hear far worse at school, at home, video games, television, film. So I don't think this is anything that will traumatize them from my perspective. But with that said, Dragon Ball Z, Broly, and I will say this, just one last thing. Dragon Ball Z is one of the only animes that has managed to keep you emotionally invested in the characters and the outcomes. You could literally have one episode or even one anime film that has no dialogue towards the end. It's just them powering up. And before you know it, that episode or that film is over and you're just eager to see what's going to happen next. That, to me, is the power of Dragon Ball Z. You literally could have no dialogue, just power-ups and destruction going everywhere. And as soon as you hear it the next time on Dragon Ball Z, you're upset that the episode is over, but then you're excited to see what's going to happen next, even though there was literally no character development going on at all at that point in time. Of course, we were kids then, so, we don't necessarily have this, we didn't necessarily have this ability to disseminate character development at that specific point in time of our lives. But Dragon Ball Z, Legendary Super Saiyan, Broly, 5 out of 5. Let me know what you thought about the film if you have watched it. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, please do. I do recommend it. Provide a like, provide a comment on my YouTube or my Facebook, and I will be seeing you again, my friends. Take care and be safe. Adios.